Thank you guys for coming out. Welcome to our first live Founders Unfiltered, our first live event at JumpStart in 2.5 years. So thank you for braving this weird thing that is the real world and coming out in person for this. We're really excited to kick things off. My name is Freddie Coffey. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing here at JumpStart. I'm going to be your host for this evening. Before we get started, a couple housekeeping announcements. First of all, I want to thank Melendez Catering for the delicious food that is outside. And we got some fans for the delicious food out there. And it seems like there's going to be some more afterwards, so make sure you grab some of that. They are obviously providers of the food here, and also Jose Melendez is a graduate of the JumpStart Impact Program, which is a small business accelerator program that we have here at JumpStart as well, in addition to all of the great tech stuff that we do that we're going to be finding out with Josh Reid here in a little bit. Before we kick things off, I want to do a quick pitch for our next live event, or I should say live event series. So Founders Unfiltered started as a live event series, and then when COVID kicked in, we converted to a webcast. It's been a webcast for the last year. We're back in person tonight. We're going to be in person on location at Limelight in Tremont for our summer series. So we're going to be there June, July, and August for 3 events. We're fingers crossed it's Cleveland weather. We'll see what happens, but we're hoping for one of those to be on the rooftop at Limelight. If you haven't been there, you should check it out because it is fabulous, and we're really excited about that. And we're going to start June 23rd with Dallas Hoganson of Felix, and that will be our first one in the summer series of Founders Unfiltered at Limelight. So, enough about all of that stuff. We are here to talk to a founder that really needs no introduction, because if I had to do one, I wouldn't know what to say. This guy's story is a unique one. He is Josh Reid, founder of Inphlu, Cincinnati-based tech startup. He's also a former college athlete, turned engineer, turned bodybuilder and model, turned small business owner, turned tech founder, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's a tale as old as time. I'm sure it's a story that we're all familiar with, right? We've all been through that. So we'll discuss that and a lot more on tonight's Founders Unfiltered, but please join me in welcoming Josh Reid.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
You can take it away. No. So, Josh, let's get right into it. You are founder of Inphlu.
Yes.
Inphlu is, for lack of a better term, crushing it right now. You guys just signed a deal with Whataburger,
yes.
A major enterprise client. You have a lot of big enterprise clients in the pipeline.
Yes.
You raised your first round. You're moved on to raising another round, so lots of exciting things are happening. Let's start there. Tell us about Inphlu. Give us your elevator pitch.
For sure. So I've done this a lot, okay, so bear with me. But before I get started, I want to say thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for the opportunity to be on Founders Unfiltered in real life. So I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for all the support. But as far as Inphlu, so we help companies amplify their brand and drive recruitment on social media by 10 to 100x. And we do that by giving you a simple way to share corporate approved content through the social networks of your employees to help reach 8 times more engagement, 24 times more reach, 10 times more job applicants, and 42 times more impressions.
I feel like you've practiced that.
Just a little bit.
A few times. So, like I mentioned in the intro, you guys recently signed a major client, Texas-based fast food chain Whataburger.
Yes.
National fast food chain. How did a year-old startup land the deal that you did with them?
That's a great question. I would say be open-minded, right? So Inphlu, we started out with fixing a certain problem that was a feel-good and time-saving and cost-saving solution. And then we had a chance to speak to more larger enterprise companies and figured out that we were solving something that was impacting the world called the Great Resignation. And so we met with the company organization right in Dayton, and they said, Josh, we love your platform, but we're interested in your talent acquisition piece. I said, well, tell me more. He said, well, you have a feature where we can share content through all of our employees' social networks. I was like, yeah, it's just a feature. But we want that. I said, okay, great. So I took that information back to one of my advisors, Joe Judge, and he said, Josh, this sounds great. Have you heard of the Great Resignation? I said, what's that? He said, well, where have you been? I said, I'm focusing on Inphlu. I've never heard of the term. So I went and did my homework. And they said, have you heard of Whataburger? I said, Joe, who hasn't heard of Whataburger? He said, well, do you think this could work for Whataburger? I said, well, Joe, I can't just call Whataburger. What do you mean? He said, well, I think I can get you in front of him. So he set up a meeting and helped me prep for it, pitched to him, and they just fell in love with the product. And from there, it just started, it was a virtuous cycle. And so that's how Inphlu just took off from there.
So there's a reason that Josh didn't know about the Great Resignation. We'll get to that in a later question, but we'll just keep that planted.
I see what you did
keep
there.
that seed planted, because we're going to come back to that. So landing a big enterprise client like that, it can be one of the most important, but also one of the most stressful milestones in a founder's, especially a young founder's journey. How did you know that they were the right partner for you? I mean, especially since, you're talking about that they identified a feature that kind of then became the product, which required some pivoting on your part. So how did you know that they were the right big client?
That's another great question. I think from the first meeting, they sort of validated me as a founder, right? Where I was like, well, I'm talking to this $1 billion company, and here I am in this startup. The software is not even a year old. And they're letting me know that the value add is what we're really interested in. We love you as a founder, love the team, but man, you're really fixing a huge problem that's not just impacting us, but it's impacting across the board. And so it just helped me further double down and meet with the team and want to listen and figure out more, but they gave us a chance to get it right. And that's not common, right? So when you're coming, even in raising money, they're expecting you to achieve things that you just haven't experienced yet. But this company really gave us a chance to get it right, but we're also hungry, we're scrappy, we're listening, we're doing things ahead of time. And so it's like, man, this team really wants and we got a chance to get it right, and that's exactly what we did. And so that's how we knew they were the right partner, because they gave us a chance to get it right and we knocked it out of the park.
I think if you are working with a fast food chain and you show them that you're hungry, that's probably...
for sure, pun intended.
There will be many of those, and I apologize in advance. So how has that experience working with them, you touched on this a little bit, changed Inphlu itself, whether it's in your operations, processes, the platform? How did that change you guys? Because I have to imagine that when, you told me earlier you submitted the first invoice today.
Yeah, that felt good.
When you get an invoice with whatever number was on that one, it may
differently
shift things for you.
For sure. So I would say with a company of that magnitude as a startup, they're going to push your platform beyond the way anyone else has ever pushed it. So they're going to help you discover things a lot faster. And again, you have to be, it's almost like boxing. You got to be quick on your feet. You got to know how to adjust. And things are going to happen, right? They're going to say something didn't work. Don't panic. Just adjust. Have a team that's on call. Make sure it responds to the support tickets. Have a plan and adjust and get it done. Because you have to understand, these companies, they launch products too. Things don't work. They've been around a lot longer than we have, and so they understand what we're getting ready to experience. As long as you stay open-minded and listening and willing to do what needs to be done to fix the problem, get over that obstacle, you'll be A-okay.
Are there other clients, of that level or above that you guys are working with right now or seeking out to work with right now?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So actually, we had a chance I spent the day with Salesforce about a month ago.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that was a phenomenal experience. And again, and I know we'll get into this, but you always got to dream big, right? And so when we get in here, it's like with Josh, you haven't done a round yet. We first started, we didn't have any customers. Well, we're going to get customers. That's why we started the company. It's got to be patient. And so you start reaching far. Just because you're here, don't focus on achieving things here. If I'm here, I'm going to reach big. And if I don't get up there yet, I may fall in the middle. And so we're reaching big. And that's where we had the opportunity to meet with Salesforce and realize that, hey, we have a solution to one of their biggest problems. Let's get them in for a meeting, give them a chance. If I get in the room, I'm going to get the deal. And we've proven that. And so that's how that happened. And so I would say Salesforce, and had a really good meeting with Eli Lilly. Have you heard of them? Sort of a big pharma company, right? And so that went really well, and talk about next steps there. So it's going pretty well, man. It's been a blessing. And again, we have some great advisors. I definitely want to acknowledge, Nadine. She we meet every single week in Hardick, and we go back and forth, but they definitely see the vision, and they believe in me as a founder. They believe in the team at Inphlu to get it done.
Nadine, you're allowed to woo from the audience when you're mentioned if you want to. So, dreaming big has plays a big role in it, especially in landing those big clients. You can't be afraid to reach out, but before you land a big client, you have to have a big solution to a big problem. That need has to exist, and before you can develop that solution, you have to have developers, and before you can hire these developers, you have to have money. So let's talk about fundraising.
Yeah.
Prior to launching Inphlu, actually, let's talk about the solution first. Prior to launching Inphlu, you were, I guess, a small business owner of a marketing agency. And in the many different hats that you've worn in your career. But unlike, the average branding expert or, somebody that's just talented in a specific area of marketing, you were also an engineer before, or you studied to be an engineer. I'm assuming your proprietary solution was developed to solve the challenges that you were facing as a marketer. If that's a wrong assumption, tell me. But can you tell us about the evolution of that from marketing agency into a marketing software solution?
Yeah, for sure. So I tell the story how I even got to starting the agency. So myself and she's my wife now, but my girlfriend and then fiance back then, we were into social marketing as a couple. Right, so if you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, we stay within our lane, achieving academic success, love, fitness. That's sort of the lanes that we stay in. And so as I was preparing for a surprise engagement, we would travel and do pictures. So all the pictures look really good. And so the number one question was, who's taking their pictures? They got a photographer following them all the time, right? And so that's like the $1 million question to this day is who take their pictures? And so I was building a story because that was part of the proposal. And there's 15 characters in Will You Marry Me? And so every single character had a picture of my wife and I in some part of our relationship, walking on a beach, eating a cheeseburger. There's like an ad type picture of us eating a cheeseburger. And so I was like, man, this can go viral. So it was a fully produced surprise engagement, and posted on my Facebook page. And I was very adamant about a certain time on Sunday, because right around 12 on Sunday is like peak time to post on social media. Everyone's out of church, grocery shopping is done, the food's in the fridge, everyone's on their phone, right? So I'm traveling back from Chicago. I just left an event with GNC, who I was endorsed with at the time. And I'm texting my wife, I'm like, babe, I got to post this video, their engagement on Facebook. I said, well, you can't post it. My family needs to see it first. I don't want them to find it on Facebook. I'm like, okay. But it's 12:30. I got to post it, right? So I said, the video is 7 minutes long. I got to post this thing. And so I'm panicking. I was like, okay, 10 minutes, time's up. I got to post it. Okay, go ahead and post it. So by the time I flew from Chicago here airport to CVG, it had 15,000 views in that 1 hour flight. By that night, it was over 800,000. Every time I refreshed it, it jumped 10,000. Every single time it jumped. So by the next one, I had 1 million views in 24 hours, right? And so that kicked off the idea. I was like, man, now it's a fully produced. You can do Josh Reid surprise engagement on Google. You see the video. And then 3 days later, it hit national media. So now it's at 5 million views. This thing just kept spiraling. And I was like, man, if I can do this for companies, I got an agency. So from that, I started a digital social media marketing agency, and I use that to sell my ability to market. Got to have something to show you know what you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
And so I started a digital marketing agency called Driven Optics. This is my second startup, so I got a network. And one of my mentors got me a meeting with Harley Davidson. And so before that meeting, I had to get my motorcycle license. I passed the test the day before the meeting because I knew the first question they asked me, do you have a motorcycle license? I said, yes, just got my license, right? Because how can you market motorcycles if you can't ride one? And so I got to deal with Harley Davidson as my first contract. So about 4 months later, I'm at $250,000 in revenue, a lot of cash, but I got a lot of it's very labor intensive. So I got frustrated. Now, when I was an engineer, I had a mentor named Matthew. He always told me to read this book called Only the Paranoid Survive. If you're listening, check it out. Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Grove. It talks about strategic inflection points. So what would change the way you do business? For me as an agency, it was automation. If I automated my agency, I'm out of business. So I said, well, I'm not going to wait for somebody to do it. I'm going to do it myself. And that birthed the idea of Inphlu. And so through that pain point, reading that book that I never read, this guy told me to read it for 3 years. I decided to read it in 2018. Came with the idea Thanksgiving 2018, and the rest is history.
That's an awesome story, first of all. Second of all, I'm sure we'll all be in the lobby on our phones watching the proposal video right after this. So now let's take a step forward. So the idea for the company is formulated in your head.
Yeah.
The idea for the solution, you have the skills to develop an MVP. We know you need capital to start that to scale. You were able to raise a pre-seed, nearly $600,000. Tell us about raising funding for the first time.
Yeah, that's my first time. So the funding, that was an experience because I remember the first time I pitched to an investor was River Cities. And so this was January 2019 when I just thought Inphlu was an opportunity that I said, man, this is something worth investing into. I never prepared a pitch deck. I've always had my own capital, but this right here is something I could scale, right? It's a technology, it's software. And so one of my mentors got me a meeting with the president of River Cities. Now, I had no idea what I was doing. Right?
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess you had a pretty slick-looking pitch deck, though.
It looked good. I looked apart the briefcase and everything. I had the tall umbrella. It was raining that day. And I did the Uber Black. I got to look the part, right? So I put up in a Mercedes Uber. And at the rooftop of the building downtown, nice boardroom. And I presented it. He said, Josh, this is a great idea, but you're a little too early for us. We normally invest after 1 million AR. Now, this is January 2019. Okay, he said, well, I'm going to make some introductions for you. Then he made a contact to another sort of startup group. Now, I went in there. I already have an office. I got an ace. I'm making money. I got employees. And so looked at me and said, well, if you're doing this much on your own, why do you need us? I said, well, you know what? You're right. So that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. So I've been doing this on my own for 4 years. I can continue to do it that way. And so I kind of benched Inphlu because I had to keep my agency going to keep my cash flow. But then we got on the radar with the Data ESP portfolio program, had a chance to pitch to them, and they said, Josh, a great idea. We need to get behind it. And that's how I started learning the ropes of what goes into raising capital. So it wasn't that we weren't a good idea, it was just too early. There's things you have to do. And so going through that process of the pandemic, launching in January 2020 officially, going through the process of a pandemic, bootstrapping, showing grit, keep my team together, that all helped the story. So by the time I got to JumpStart, they're looking at me like, wow, you did all of this on your own? Oh, we got to get behind this founder. Not only is it a great product, but the founder is hungry, his team is committed, they're dedicated to the cause, they're dedicated to fixing this problem. How can we support them? And that just made the raise kind of go, I won't say easy, but it was the path wasn't as bumpy because we had already went through a pretty tough process before it.
So a lot of times, and first-time founders may not know this, especially when they're first starting out fundraising, but no's are part of the game. It's pretty common, and a no might not be no, it might be not right now. Like in your case, you're just you're too early. Did that? You kind of said it soured you a little, but did it motivate you to try and refine the pitch, or what were you thinking? Like just the first time that you heard no, because knowing now, looking back, that's part of it. What were you going through then?
Well, I mean, I have a competitive nature.
Really?
So I was determined to do it on my own. I said, well, I've made it this far. He's right. I've made it this far on my own. But again, I didn't know the game.
Yeah.
So this venture world is a game, right? And it's like anything. I played 3 sports in college. Football is my primary sport. I practice every single day. I watch film. I watch my competition. I'm studying. I'm a wide receiver. I'm studying the cornerbacks, the DBs. How do they move? How to run my routes? The same thing works in business. So you have to apply the same tenacity. You have to study the business game. If you're in VC, you got to study how venture works. And so I didn't know, but once I learned it and started applying it, this is not no because I'm not a good founder, not a good product. We may not be a good fit. So how do we find more VCs who invest into our space? How do I find advisors who can coach me? How can I refine my pitch deck? How can I get the information correct? Can I get better at demoing the product? Right? Because I know my product, but you may not know tech, but you write big checks for tech. So how can I make you understand it? And so just listening to that and refining that information is going to make the process a lot more smooth and minimize the no's as well.
So a little wiser now that you've gone through that process and you're working on or close to closing a new round, close to closing a $2 million seed round.
Yes.
How has this been different than the pre-seed that you were raising before?
I would say the questions, right? Because pre-seed is, I say they're less investing into the product, more investing into the founder. Because, we probably don't have a product yet. You have a vision. If you do have a product, it's not fully baked. And so you have to really sell that you have this ability to take this capital and make something of it. At seed round, they're expecting a little bit more. They expect to be a little bit more mature, right? You're not as fresh as you were at the pre-seed round. So I would say that's the biggest difference. Aside from that, I would say due diligence, right? It's $2 million, not $500,000. So the checks are bigger. And I would say that's the biggest difference is what they expect of you as a founder.
Easier or harder this time around, or just different?
I would say just different. I won't say nothing's easier or harder, because not that it's easier, it's that you got better at navigating it. You're still going to go through the same challenges, but it doesn't take you as long to get over it this time. And I see that happen right now. It doesn't take me as long to get over a hump because I have the experience and I have the traction as well.
You mentioned a little earlier about the networks that you were growing, and I have to imagine that raising different rounds, you're growing networks within the VC community, and you've got these big new clients, so growing your network that way. How have you leveraged those connections to find new opportunities?
Well, I really leverage my advisors and my mentors, and I've been fortunate enough to have great investors as well. So I have investors who are patient and they understand and they know how it works. They're not expecting unrealistic metrics. And I think that's very important. And I have investors who spend a lot of time with me. And so like I said, I meet with Nadine every single Friday. Every single Friday, right? We meet for an hour. What are your challenges? What can we do to help? I met another investor by the name of Brian Core, and this guy's turned into my extended family. And he introduced me to Joe, who's he's adopted me as his adopted son, right? And so I have investors that are calling me family at this point now. Again, you can't get too comfortable. You still got to stay a course, right? You still got a mission to complete. We got to make this company grow. So we are holding you accountable, but at the same time, we believe in you. And so that's been really beneficial in helping me network and get to people that can help the company grow, is having investors who believe into me, who are willing to make that connection. Because it takes a lot to vouch for someone. If I call someone and say, hey, Freddie's a good guy, and then you meet them and you turn out not to be a good guy, that makes me look bad.
My reputation precedes me here.
Right? But you see what I'm saying? And so these people are very wealthy individuals. They have amassed a really strong network of people that if they put their name on it, whoever they're talking to is going to get behind it. So you have to prove them right. And that's been very helpful.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something else that I know you're really passionate about, and that is culture, company culture. There's a reason that Josh Reid did not know about the Great Resignation when all of us were seeing it on the news and everything else. And that reason is that because every employee that started with Inphlu still works at Inphlu.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Thank you. Very proud of that, too.
Congratulations on that,
Thank
first of all. Congratulations on a lot of things. But how do you keep your team happy?
Oh, man. I just care about them. My team has seen me cry. They've seen me go through things, and I've seen the same thing. And, I just want my team to win. That's how I've always been. I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing. My mom, and very nurturing, very caring, and I want to make sure everybody around me is okay, right? And so that's just how I've been, and they know that, and I think that's what it is. And I've always been honest. When I thought Inphlu wasn't going to make it, I had a meeting with my team. This is June. I want to say June 16th. I think it was June 16th, 2020. Had a meeting with my team. I had two seniors, Kevin and Morgan, that I wanted to hire full time, and they didn't interview because they wanted to work for Inphlu. So they didn't interview anywhere. And I won't call it pressure, but I was kind of disappointed in myself because I'm like, man, I don't have the capital to make an offer. Yeah. Right? So I met with them. I said, look, guys, I think you should interview for other job opportunities because I don't know what Inphlu is going to be a month from now. But I said, there's one thing I'm really good at. and that's performing when I'm uncomfortable. I'm really good at that. So panicking is not in my DNA. I figure things out. I'm a problem solver. I go into solutions mode. And so the very next day, and I filmed this whole process. My life for the last 10 years is all on camera. The very next day, I'm holding my daughter in the garage. I love being outside. I got the garage door open so the heat's coming in. It's June. And I get an email from Mainstream Ventures saying, congratulations, Josh Reid, you've been awarded the LEAP grant for $30,000. The very next day after that meeting. So I called my team. I said, everyone meet at the office downtown in the next hour. So I printed the email out and I I flipped it over on the table, put a couple pieces of paper on top so you can't read through it. And I do my motivational spiel to the team. I said, on the count of that, I want you to flip the paper over and read it out loud. And they flipped it over and said, that's we back in business. And I took that 30 grand, hired a developer from overseas, is most cost effective, and I started working on what we are today. Now there came a time, because Kevin called me and said, Josh, I'm sticking through this with you, man. I'm here to the end. Morgan did the same thing, but they came at the Morgan situation was a little different at the time. Morgan tipped in. So she said, Josh, I got an offer from Fifth Third. This is about 2 weeks after that. I said, take it. But I said, check this out. I'm going to figure this thing out. And when I do, I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse. I can show you the text messages right now of November when I sent her that text with a shades emoji. I said, Morgan, give me a call if you'd like to discuss your future with Inphlu. She called me that next morning and she accepted the offer the following week and I took it back from Fifth Third. And my whole team was together. And because that was my missing piece was Morgan. Once I got Morgan back, the whole gang is back. And everybody's full time and got a piece of the company.
You guys hiring right now?
Absolutely. Aggressively. Yeah, aggressively. So I see what you. Yeah, aggressive. We have a good time, man. It's and even as my first company, every month I took my team out to a nice dinner. Right? I mean, we're eating at Morton's, we're at Jeff Ruby's, we're at any fancy restaurant you can think about, take them to. It's to show my appreciation. And now we do it different. We go to Topgolf now. And so last week I had my personal best. I think I had like 172 in Topgolf. Kevin, I think he had like 50 points. And our engineer Dan, this is his first time there. He's new to the team. He had a couple points, but I'm not gonna say what his score was. But this is the type of stuff we do. It's just I just want to make sure we all are close knit because when the waters get troubled, just know I'm here. I got you. I don't need you to jump ship. I got you, and I want to show you that through action. And I think that's how the team is still here and growing.
So that's a lot about how, as a leader, you treat people and how you've kept your team happy. What about you? How do you keep Josh happy?
Well, I'm a father now and a husband, and I'm very family driven. Part of my goal is to leave a legacy. And every single thing I do, there's a purpose to everything. Taking care of myself. I love to work out. And the gym is a part of every single thing I've ever done. The physical aspect of it, the discipline. And so if I'm in physical shape, I'm happy. If you see me and I'm not, then there's a problem. And that's very rare. So as long as I can do those things, get my hair cut, stay in the gym, spend time with my daughter at the park, take my wife out to dinner, I'm good. Call my mom, I'm straight. And that's what I've been able to do. So that's what I do to keep me happy, man. I'm very easy to please. Inphlu is doing great. My team is good. And I'm very simple.
You're certainly one of the most positive people I think I've ever met.
Thank
you. You're welcome. What role does that positivity play in the leadership role that you have within the startup as well?
Yeah, so you have to be comfortable with the unknown. So when the pandemic hit, no one knew what was going to happen. At least the last time I experienced something like that was 2008. I graduated undergrad into the recession. Now, for me, I made a quick adjustment. I'm just going to stay in school. I went to graduate school. It seemed like the safest bet, right? I got paid to go to graduate school. I was on a scholarship, so it made sense. The pandemic, being positive in entrepreneurship, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if you embrace it, embrace the challenge and stay the course and keep the faith, you're going to figure it out. So there's the dream, then there's triumph. In between is the adversity. The downside is 99% of people quit in the adversity, but the adversity is training you for success. So I didn't know that bootstrapping was a popular thing amongst VCs. I didn't know that. I thought they wanted to see how fast can I raise money. So when I'm telling the story to JumpStart, they were impressed at how long I was able to survive through a pandemic with no capital. And I didn't know that. So the whole time I was doing that, unbeknownst to me, I'm building a phenomenal story to help make raising money not easier, but more streamlined. And so embrace that. And that positivity helps because it's very easy to be negative. It's very easy to talk yourself out of something. But again, you got to do the things that make you feel good too. And so if you can't do that, it's going to be a little challenge. So figure out what makes you happy and continue to do that. And that's what helps you to stay the course and keep the faith.
You mentioned a phenomenal story, and I think your just career journey or whatever you want to call it is kind of a phenomenal story. I touched on it at the beginning when I introduced you. So college athlete, went to school for engineering. You were a fitness bodybuilder. You were a viral social media star that I didn't include in the intro. I would be not doing my job if I didn't give you just kind of an opportunity to tell us like how all one thing led to another, and maybe just give us that rundown through college so we can. I mean, we just want to know like how all that happened one after the other.
For sure. So it was June 1st, 2008 is when I got in the gym like serious. So football is my number one sport in undergrad. And but I wanted to get into models. Like all these models got six packs, right? And I was naturally a lean guy, but I needed to fill out. And so that summer, I looked like I grew into a man the summer of 2008, right? I came back the fall semester. I walked around campus. I had the A shirt. I don't want to say the slang term of it, but the muscle shirt with the, right? Yeah, and I had a bottle of Jergens all the time. And so, so I was glistening everywhere I went, right? In between class, I go to the gym, do some curls. I just got really infatuated, and I stayed in the gym from June 1st, 2008, all the way to last night when I did legs. And so the gym has always been a part of every single thing, but what that showed was discipline. I met my wife in the gym, my best man in the gym, my older brother who was my photographer in my wedding and my engagement at the gym. I met one of my top mentors at the gym. Everybody that's close to me I met in the gym. And so that right there just showed discipline, but it led to every single thing. So I went from that. I went to graduate school, Indianapolis at IUPUI, and got into modeling, doing like fashion shows and runway. And then when I took a job off at Emerson, that's how I got from Indiana to Dayton, Ohio, because I worked at Emerson in Sydney. I'm in LA Fitness working out, and the guy comes up to me, and he's like, Josh, he said, what do you do? I said, I'm an engineer. I said, I just moved here from New York. And so, okay. And he got the accent. I didn't say Indiana because, really from New York. So I said, I just moved here from New York and by way of Indiana. He said, man, you should do modeling. I said, okay. And it was a little awkward. So I'm like, who's this grown man? I should do modeling. He's like, I said, well, let's meet for lunch or something like that. So we met at Panera Bread. His name was Lamar Paisley. Met at Panera. We was in there. We closed it. They would start sweeping by the feet. That's how long we was in there. I said, maybe it's time to leave. And so we did a photo shoot. There was a competition for Beats by Dre. And they wanted to see a fitness picture with their headphones on. So I did it. It was a shirtless picture, and I had the Beats by Dre on. And I had this look where I looked back. And that picture it went like local viral. And NASA got some recognition, started doing more fashion. So I did like Louisville Fashion Week. I did Chicago Fashion Week. I was a face of Dayton for the Dayton Fashion Week. And then the front row was when I did the Dayton Fashion Week, which is a runway show, Abercrombie & Fitch was at the show. So I opened up the show in Speedos and combat boots and headphones. Now I can't make this up. So, so here I come down this runway, this big 210-pound guy with Speedos on and spray painted combat boots and shades. And I don't know, fashion is strange. That's how I would never wear this. But unbeknownst to me, Abercrombie & Fitch was in the front row. So at intermission, they came and talked to me and recruited me for Abercrombie & Fitch. But I was bogus. So Josh, you got to change your diet. So they got me on a diet. I cut down in like 30 days. I just look like a beach body model just from the diet. So I already had the muscle. I just had the fluff on it, right? And so from that, I'm in LA Fitness again. A guy comes up and said, Josh, you should consider competing. I said, compete for what? He said, bodybuilding. I said, I don't want to be the big guy. So now men's physique is like the swim model categories in bodybuilding. You got bodybuilding classic, men's physique, same thing for women. You got bodybuilding, physique models, bikini models, etc. So men's physique, you wear the board shorts.
You guys didn't know you were going to learn all this, did you?
You're learning, this is this, but the gym is tied to every single thing. So I was like, okay, at this point, I wanted to get out of engineering anyway. So engineering just didn't fulfill me. I wasn't maximizing my full potential. Great company, but I wasn't maximizing my full potential as an individual. And he said, I think you should consider competing. I said, okay, great. He said, well, come in tomorrow. We'll talk more about it. So I came in. He gave me a flyer for the 73rd Cincinnati Natural Bodybuilding Show. It was March 27, 2013. It's the oldest bodybuilding show in the country. And he said it's in 5 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, sign me up. You know, I don't got nothing to lose. Can I get? And then GNC was on the top of the flyer. Always wanted to model for GNC. They're on the top of the flyer. I said, sign me up. I go into the show. I introduced me to his brother who was a coach. He taught me how to pose and stuff like that. I won the whole thing. First show, won the whole thing. Now I was nervous as ever. I'm standing in front of an audience. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, no shirt on, got board shorts. You know, legs ain't the biggest. It's just, and so I went the whole show. I was like, man, I may be on to something. When's the next show? So there's another one down in Kentucky called the Kentucky Muscle. I go to Kentucky Muscle, win the whole thing. So I'm 2 weeks in. I won 2 shows. So now I'm fully focused. I'm eating I'm doing cardio. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm at the gym at 5. I come back home. I drive an hour from Dayton to Sydney by 7. I get to work. I get off at 4:30. I'm back at the gym at 6:30. I train again. I'm back home eating 10 egg whites, drink my protein shake, go to sleep. I'm a robot every single day, right? Josh, we need to go for pro. So now we're in June 2013. But before the pro show, there was a guy that I beat in my first show. He said, Josh, you're competing in the Julie Palmer. I said, now my coach don't want me to focus on that. He wants me to go pro. He said, good, because I was going to beat you anyway. Oh, okay. Hey, coach, we got to do the Julie Palmer. And they got the nice trophies, too. He said, okay, I'm going to sign you up, but I'm not going to peak your body. So peaking means you go to the water dehydration, et cetera. We're not going to do that. Just eat some peanut butter, take the protein out, put more fats. Okay, great. I win that whole show. That guy didn't even place in top 5. So then I go to June. I go to Chicago. Now check this out. Remember I mentioned GNC, right? So GNC is at Chicago. They're the biggest sponsor of the Junior Nationals in Chicago. I'm down. I had the tan. Mind you, I had the tan. I tanned every single day, LA tan. So I mean, I look like a new penny. Okay, so so I tanned every single day. I was a platinum member of LA Tan. I put the tanner lotion on, got my little odd things. Yeah, I did every single day. Then I would go to the gym. I just look like a mutant. And so I can't make this up. It's all documented. But so I get to, I'm downstairs in Chicago. I'm getting tan. And I said, I need another coat, not dark enough. And so the reason why, because when the lights darken your better look on stage, my mom she was my girlfriend. So now my wife was upstairs at GNC. She's calling me like, Mom, what do you want? GNC want to talk to you. Like, okay, I'm getting tense. So come upstairs. GNC want to talk to you. So now I got the camera. I got a cameraman following me the whole trip. The whole weekend's a friend of mine. And I'm filming the whole thing because I said, nobody's going to believe this. I've only been competing for 2 months. I'm going for pro. So I get upstairs. And they got a magazine called Muscle and Body. Now, the guy she's talking to is on the cover. She says, how do I get my son in this magazine? Well, who's your son? His name is Bill Center. He's one of my best friends now. So I'm talking to Bill. You think me and Bill knew each other for 10 years. I pounded him up, got the cameras filed, and said, what do you do? I said, I'm an engineer. Really? I was crazy. I don't believe it. He said, well, don't worry about winning the show. Nobody wins their first time. Well, he don't know who he's talking to. So, here we go again. So I win the whole show. So I'm 2 months in the sport. I'm turned pro. I just met the guy who signs the ads for GNC. He loves me. He said, don't worry about winning. I win. So now I'm home. I had a 2007 green Nissan Frontier truck. It had no radio in it. So now I'm an engineer. I make a lot of money, but I'm spending all my money on myself. Bodybuilding is expensive. I eat steak every morning. I eat 10 egg whites in the morning, 10 egg whites at night. Right? I'm eating a lot of food.
Now it's all Whataburger, by the way. But.
Yeah. So I get a call. Well, I emailed him to follow up. And then he calls me. I'm leaving Adidas at this time. So Adidas in Indianapolis, I had the office there. So I brokered a deal with Adidas. And I just turned pro. So as I'm leaving Adidas, I get a call from Bill. I signed with GNC right on the phone. 5 months later, I'm in New York shooting at Milk Studios. My face is in front of every GNC store across the country, 7,000 stores, smiling at people. I'm in every fitness magazine, just changed my life. Every fitness magazine. 2 years later, I quit engineering. I used the money I made from bodybuilding, invested in my first startup, and that's how I got to getting to this point. So everything was fitness, and I met my wife in the middle there too in 2013 as well.
So this sounds really weird to say, but in hindsight, that whole journey seems logical. Like,
much, yeah.
with each step kind of influence the next.
Yeah.
Influencing your connections, influencing your competitiveness, getting you out of engineering, which probably, if you would have stuck with that, maybe it's unlikely you would have taken a marketing route. Was that luck, or was it drive, or was it both? Was it intentional? Was it serendipity?
Well, here's the thing. So you ever heard of the law of attraction? Right? So speak on the things you want, not the things you don't want. And so I read books like this, right? It's called The Law of Attraction. Check it out. You can probably find a video on YouTube that explains it in 10 minutes. And so I've always spoke on what I wanted, but I've always done the things to get there. So remember I told you I wanted to model for GNC. How to get there? I got to be in shape. So I started working out, and by the law of attraction, you're gonna navigate to the things that's gonna get you there. So in order for me to get to GNC, it wasn't through emailing an editor that I found in a magazine, which is what I did. It was I had to start competing and win shows, and every show I won, GNC was a sponsor, right? And so now I'm on their radar, and then I get to the point of meeting the people. I'm good at making relationships. I'm disciplined, and that's how you get the opportunity. So you have to be intentional and speak on the things you want and figure out what you have to do to get there. And life is going to help you figure it out, but you got to be willing to go through the process. I told you, I woke up at 4:30, got to the gym at 5, did cardio for 45 minutes on a Stairmaster. The Stairmaster is horrible. This is not the treadmill is like beginner level. Stairmaster is expert. 45 minutes, right? I get home by 6. I shower. I'm eating. I'm on the road by 7. I drive an hour to Sydney, Ohio from Dayton to get to work by 8. I work all day as an engineer, product planner. I then drive another hour back home. I change my clothes, take my supplements, get to the gym by 6:30, train for an hour and a half, come back home, spend time with my girlfriend, do it all over again. I did that for 8 months every single day. I didn't ask my wife, I didn't take on a date for 6 months because it wasn't in my diet. I can't eat cheesecake, right? I mean, this is how locked in I am. I mean, I see videos on Facebook, you know, it pops up in memories. And I'm like, that guy, which was me, was a beast. But I take that same drive, that same discipline, and now I'm applying it to Inphlu. So whoever's my competition, you shouldn't sleep. You shouldn't sleep. I'm taking that same drive, that same mentality, and applying it to my competition right now. So you should be very afraid because we're coming. So you have to apply that same intensity, and that's how we get there. I'm intense about it the way I love my wife, I'm very intentional about every single thing that I do.
I'm really glad that you said that because it tees up my next question. Because from the outside looking in, you entered your first competition and you won. You started, you had a startup that you bootstrapped for a while, which is incredibly difficult. And you pitched and you got funding, and you're pitching now and you're getting more funding, and you signed a big a client. This kind of thing, from the outside in, looking at you, without knowing how hard you worked and that sort of thing, seems easy. It looks like it's coming to you easily. But now, having heard that, we know how much hard work goes into it. What kind of advice do you have for somebody who's out there working that hard and hasn't gotten the success yet? You know, maybe it's coming, but they're not there yet, but they're doing what you were doing. They're getting up at 4 and they're maybe they're working a full-time job, but they're also coding in the morning and coding at night, or they're creating their business plan until 1 o'clock in the morning and they're kind of working over that. What kind of advice do you have there?
Excuse me. Well, it's funny you mention that, because I could say trust the process, but that's cliche. So while I'm in it, to me, it doesn't feel like it's moving quick. Right? I'm being caught in pace. It's like, why hasn't this happened yet? Why hasn't this closed yet, right? It's like, well, Josh, it's only been 2 weeks. Look where you are, right? And so while I'm in it, it doesn't feel like it's moving fast from the outside. I could definitely see your perspective. But to the person that's in the trenches, trust the process, embrace it. Embrace it as much as you can, because I'm telling you, once you make it to the other side, it's going to all make sense. Now, one of the things that I know we haven't really dove into in this particular interview was my upbringing. I come from the gutter, from nothing, right? And so I know how to make do with very little. And you have to learn how to make do with very little. So when you get something, you know how to nurture, you know how to embrace it and make it grow. And I told him, I said, look what I did with no money. Then look what I did with the 30,000. What you think I'm gonna do with 2 million? I mean, I'm gonna put my money, smart money is gonna bet on the winning horse, right? And so I would just say embrace the struggle and build your story and keep going, because I'm telling you, it's gonna work. It's going, if you know what really happened during this process, and Nadine and Hardick knows, the fact I'm here talking to you this way and not breaking down, I think it says a lot. Because I've gone through a lot the last 30 days in my family. I've gone through the worst thing you probably could experience. But I got to stay focused. Because I'm like Willy Wonka, Charlie and Willy Wonka, I got the golden ticket. And as I'm trying to go get the golden ticket to get into the chocolate factory, I got everybody trying to distract me, sell it to me. I'll give you 50 cents for it. No, I'm focused. I'm laser focused. And you just got to stay laser focused, and block out the naysayers and find those who believe in you and hold on to them. Because those are the ones that keep you going. So that's what I would say. Just keep going. Embrace it.
Josh, I want to thank you for coming here tonight and for talking with us. This has been an outstanding conversation and just a pleasure for me to be able to speak with you about your journey, and probably the most unfiltered, I think, at this point of Founders Unfiltered that we've had so far. This is the first time a Speedo has been mentioned, for sure. Has your staff seen that photo?
I won't let them. I don't think I've even told that story, but this is unfiltered.
Now they're going to find out.
You probably can find it floating out there somewhere. I got to scrub the internet now. I don't know.
So we're going to wrap up with what has become my favorite segment, which is our Founders Fast Five. So we do a prep session for this conversation, and we kind of talk about, we try and figure out themes that come out of Josh's journey and things like that. What we don't do is prepare him for our lightning round of questions. So this is how it's going to work. So there's actually 6 questions. You have to answer 5 of them. You get 1 pass. If you answer all 6 of them, you win a prize, which is my Planet Fitness membership, which will get used the same amount, because you obviously don't need it, and I never use it. I hope you're not trying to get a deal with Planet Fitness right now. All right, so question number 1. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
You're an engineer. Why do you want to start your own company?
What gets you up in the morning other than going to the gym? Maybe that is the answer, and I answered it for you.
Building for my family. When I'm building for my family and positioning my team to be able to do the same for theirs.
Awesome. What's harder, getting competition ready or rolling out a new software feature?
Oh, I say rolling out a new software feature is probably yeah, that's a big challenge.
If you weren't a tech founder or a bodybuilder or a model or a marketer or an engineer, what would you be?
A race car driver.
Do you have a license to race cars that goes along with your motorcycle license? That's not part of the question.
Yeah. Not yet, but I would. Yeah.
Your LinkedIn header says that you're an entrepreneur, speaker, innovator, and family man. Rank those in order of priority.
Family man.
And
order priority?
Yeah.
So what does it say? Entrepreneur, innovator, speaker.
Yeah.
So family man, innovator, then entrepreneur, and then speaker.
That's what I thought,
yeah.
Because your speaking is just tough up here. Totally kidding. Last one? You're going to answer all 6, so that Planet Fitness membership is yours. What is your favorite thing on Whataburger's menu?
Ooh, the honey butter chicken biscuit.
That was quick.
Ding, 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 ding. You got to try it. The honey butter chicken biscuit is amazing. When you bite the biscuit, the honey just starts to drip everywhere. It's really good. You don't have to put it on yourself. It comes with the honey and the butter already on it.
I'm glad we're recording this. We're going to send this to them now, and then you're going to see Josh on TV again as their spokesman. I would love to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. If you guys want to pop the house lights up back there and raise your hand, we'll come around with a microphone so that you can ask a question to Josh.
Tell us, Josh, about how you give back to the community with youth and all the stuff you've done, which I think is a big part of your life you've not mentioned?
Thank you. So that's a great question. Actually, my first startup was called Operation Driven. And so Driven stands for Dreams Require Intense Vision Plus Endless Navigation. And I really recommend you Google, just put it in Google and you'll see. So I quit engineering to get this company going. It was an after-school program that worked with 3rd grade all the way to 12th grade. So it was a health component. GNC partnered with me on it. So every kid, every parent that had a child in my program had GNC products for free. And it really helped with infant mortality and childhood obesity. But the impact we made was the grades in school, their attendance, and their behavior in the classroom. So we had a curriculum. I had a great mentor, Susan Meadows, that helped me get this program off the ground. I mean, they're partnering with Children's Hospital, Cincinnati Police Department, Tri-Health, Beach Acres. I mean, the list goes on. And so that was my number one passion. And yeah, so I would say that right there. And yeah, I mean, that was my first company. And just getting that scaled up. And another reason why I did another startup was to invest back into myself. To fund it, because it really relied on a lot of grants, which is not my experience. But yeah, that's what I do. I spend a lot of time with the youth, but having actionable items to get results and not just an initiative. So check it out. I would definitely recommend just Google Operation Driven and see all the work.
Great question.
Thank you.
How about right over here?
Is it on? Okay. Thank you, and congratulations on your successful journey.
Thank you.
Would you consider yourself a tech company, or this is a two-part question? Would you consider yourself a tech company or a marketing company? And if the former, would you say that as long as you've got tech down, you don't necessarily need category expertise? You can make your own way in whatever industry happens to be profitable for you. Thank you.
Okay, okay, that's a great question. So definitely tech, and the reason why is because my agency, I was a marketing company, a digital marketing company, and my biggest hurdle was scalability, right? And so we had to automate that process, which took some AI and machine learning, which then put us in the tech category. And once we did that, now the ears get perky with investors because, okay, this guy can have 1 million customers and not just 12, a dozen big clients. I can have 1 million, and we can see true scalability. So I would say that puts us at the next level. But again, you got to get around smart people to get you there. I don't have all the answers, but I'm really good at making relationships with people that can help me find the answer. And that helped us get us to the next level where we can really scale and become a company that can grow and potentially disrupt this industry.
Hey, Josh. I had a question on maybe any tips you would have when it comes to communication with your developers, especially if they're overseas, or just bringing that vision as the visionary to the coding. Mm-hmm. And do you have any tips on really bringing it together in an efficient way?
Yeah, for sure. So I got 3 experiences for you. So with the first grant, the first $30K that we won from Main Street Ventures, I hired a team overseas. Now, I know enough to be dangerous. I'm not a full stack developer by any means. I wouldn't even call myself that because it'd be discrediting those who really are full stack. But I know enough to not get bamboozled. And so with this particular company, I was desperate to get a product that I could sell because I knew what my Achilles heels was, right? And so 10 weeks into that, I realized that this wasn't the right team. But you got to play the game because they own the code. It's not fully baked, but I can sell it, and I don't want them to disappear. And so you play the game, but at the same time, in parallel, I'm already interviewing other companies. So again, you got to maneuver, right? I can't panic and just say, oh, give me my money back and just quit. So while we're still working with them every other day, I'm interviewing other companies. So now my next lesson, I can't just hire the first person that emails me saying they could develop. Now let's find 3 people. So I found a company in Dayton, Cincinnati, and Northern Kentucky. I interviewed them. We asked for 3 references for each one. And that's how we found a local developer called Smart Data. Now, Smart Data was really good, and I gotta give them their credit. They helped us build the first iteration of Inphlu that was fully automated with AI. But then we got to a point where we outgrew the services that we were receiving, so now we got to go in-house. So they really taught me a lot about how to manage a development team, and I really recommend you got to stay on them. We met every single day, every single day. And you got to learn what they do. They got Jira, you got Bitbucket, you got GitHub. You got to learn the terminology, right? And learn how do they do their work, how do they manage their work so you can stay on it. Because the last thing you want to do is just say, okay, great, do it, tell me the results. No, you got to do it and stay on them until you can hire someone that's managed, developers before, like a CTO or lead product engineer. So that's what I did, man. So my recommendation is learn the lingo, but interview, take your time. Out of desperation, don't make the wrong move like I did the first time, but you got to learn quickly, and it's going to work out. And so since then, I knew how to interview for a full-time software developer. We brought him in-house, Dan Wardlow, phenomenal senior software engineer, full stack. The guy's a freaking genius. And then Kevin, who was one of the two seniors I mentioned, Kevin is now our lead product engineer. So I done turned 2 senior NKU students into executives in 2 years. So now Kevin I'm molding him into a CTO. I don't need to find nobody else. I got my man right here. And that's how you can learn how to train people, by learning the lingo, learning how it works. So those would be my tips. That make sense? Okay. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Josh Reid for coming tonight. If you want to learn more about Inphlu, you can go to the website influ.com. If you want to get in on an investing round that hasn't closed quite yet, jreid at influ.com.
Yes, sir.
Or if you have more questions for Josh, and we're going to be sticking around for a little while longer for a little bit more networking after this. Just a reminder to also show up next month at Limelight for our summer series, our in-person Founders Unfiltered there. I want to thank you for coming out in real life. This has been something that we have just been itching to get back out and do in person. I got to be honest, I was so sick of just staring at somebody on a computer for these interviews for the last year. So thank you for coming out. We're going to keep growing this, and we're going to have more interesting founders. And again, thank you, Josh, for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you, and good luck on everything that you do in the future, which I can only assume will be a mission to Mars or something like that.
But thank you so much, and I definitely want to say thank you to my team for believing in the vision and for staying committed. I want to say thank you to my wife, my baby girl, and especially my mom. I love you, and I love y'all, and thank you for everything.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.